All right, good
All
morning,
right, good
everyone.
morning.
Oh, shoot, there's an echo. Am I echoing for you guys? No.
No.
Okay. All right. For those of you that don't know, my name is Eman. I've been in the business. I'm finishing up my fifth month here with the Blueprint. So, Mahmoud actually brought me into the business. He told me about the business like 3 years ago, actually. It took me a while to really make the full switch. As he was saying, I was already in another sales role and I was making multiple six figures for the last 4.5 years. So it was really hard to say goodbye to that. But I did end up coming to the Lexington office in 2024, I believe. And I really saw everything with my own eyes, and was able to see this is a legitimate business. I saw the kind of mo money people were making, what Mahmoud was making. And I just, at that point, I was like, you know what? I've been looking for something new. I've always wanted to build a team. So let me make the switch and see what this is about. Now, with that being said, my first 2, 3 weeks, I actually didn't sell a single policy. I came in kind of feeling like I already knew everything because I had been in sales already. So I kind of fell on my face and I was feeling like really discouraged. So I went to Mahmoud and my current upline, Hussein, and I pretty much asked for advice, like, what am I doing wrong? Listen to me dial and tell me what I need to fix. And what I'm covering today was actually a pivotal part of changing my business and what helped me to sell a lot more, as well as tonality. And those are two things that I'm going to touch on today. So once I like kind of mastered those two things, that's when that, like I said, it was the pivot for me for to when I started selling like at least almost one policy every single day at minimum. And now I'm consistently selling, and I actually have a couple active downlines under me now that I'm trying to help get to the point that I'm at. So with that being said, today I'm going to be covering no why, no buy. So the why of the conversation that you have with the client, in my opinion, is the most important part of the conversation. If you do not have this down, if you haven't dug deep and spent like real time with the client on this particular part of the call, you will not close the sale. I don't care if you're saving them money, there's not going to be any urgency for them if you don't take time on actually building the why and understanding why they actually need this and what is the point of them spending, 30 minutes on the call with you and giving you their social and their routing and account, which are very sensitive pieces of information, as we all know. Um, so first, what I'm going to do is kind of go through like what the why is, the kind of whys there are, and kind of how to build it. And then I'll pull up the script and walk you through like where I like to incorporate it, and then throw it in when you get objections and stuff. So, I do feel like a lot of agents go wrong when, and this is something that I did in the beginning. I was going really fast. So, like, when I got on the call, I was like, all right, I need to sell something. Like, I need to find a reason to sell this client. So, I would like rush to quoting. I would talk more than listening. I would talk really fast. My tonality did not sound curious. I would avoid the uncomfortable conversations of asking about, does your wife work? Does your wife have income? I was trying to be more nice instead of effective and controlling the call. So this is everything I just listed is really where I feel like a lot of agents go wrong in the beginning, where they have to like really switch these things to pivot their business. Now, with that being said, the real why, and pretty much the way the why works, and I said this the last time I did this training, clients buy with emotion and they justify with logic. With any sale, whether you're going to the store to buy clothes, whether you're buying life insurance, whether you're signing up for a mortgage, which is what I did before this, any sale at all, if you are not, you or me or the client, this is how humans work. If you're not emotionally tied to what you're looking at, you're not going to take it serious. So that's what you have to keep in mind. I need to emotionally tie the client to this insurance product. So the five core whys, in my opinion, family protection, kids, spouse, anybody that depends on them, grandkids. Two is income replacement. What's going to happen if your paycheck disappears? There's debt protection. I always ask about mortgage, auto loans, credit card debt. What is going to fall on your family? God forbid something happens to you. Of course, there's a legacy. So when you're talking to clients that are wealthier, they really don't need the insurance. This is where you build the investment side of insurance and leaving behind a legacy. And then, of course, just like the peace of mind of leaving money behind to the family, and sleeping better knowing your loved ones are covered. So some questions that you should ask when you're trying to dig into this is if something happened to you tomorrow, what would change immediately for your family? Who's going to be the most financially impacted? How long? You said your wife has Social Security, but you're the primary breadwinner. You have Social Security, you have VA benefits, you have a pension. Your wife only has Social Security. Okay, so realistically, on her income, let's dig into your bills a little bit. How long is she going to be able to survive with just her Social Security before she runs out of money? Or she's like spending every penny that she makes. What worries you the most when you think about the future? It's a pretty broad question, but it really gets their mind thinking. Um, have you ever seen anyone in your family struggle after losing someone, whether it's you had to go into debt for the funeral, which I've had that multiple times on the phone with clients. I had a guy tell me I had to take out a $9,000 loan to pay for my wife's funeral a couple months ago because I didn't have anything in place. And I don't want my kids to have to deal with this. So just really digging in, trying to get to know them. And then when you do ask these questions, you want to kind of just be silent, give them a chance, just give them the floor, let them speak. Don't interrupt them. Don't sound like nervous. Don't like talk too much. Just let them speak, get everything off their mind, explain their situation. And then when you respond, you want to kind of repeat what they said, like summarize it so they know you heard them, and then tie it all back in. So just to confirm, your main goal was to make sure that your wife, Barbara, doesn't struggle on the hardest day of her life when she loses you because it's already going to be a heavy emotional burden. And we don't want to add that financial burden on top of her because from what you're saying, she really doesn't make any money. She's going to be struggling without you. Is that correct, sir? And then let them say, yes, that's correct. So that's the emotional part of the why there. Once you have developed an emotional why, like I said, they buy with emotion, justify with logic. So, and when I pull up the script here, I'm going to go through in detail where you incorporate all this stuff, but just briefly going to touch on the logical part of the sale. Once they're emotionally tied to it, the logical part is, does this fit my budget? Does the coverage amount make sense? Is this enough coverage to take care of the funeral, the mortgage, the auto loan, income replacement? Is this enough? Is the premium reasonable again? So the payment, can I afford this? How much am I going to have to set aside monthly for this? What bills in my life am I going to have to adjust to fit this in? And then for like the wealthier clients, obviously a lot of them are thinking about the investment part of it because they already have a lot of cash. They technically don't need this. So you're essentially just explaining like with IULs, I know EDS is really good at this, explaining like the investment side, investment build up over a couple of years. So that's really the logical side. There's no emotion in numbers. There's absolutely no emotion there. So once you build the emotion, you get to the numbers, that's where the logic comes in. So you have to know how to pivot both to the client situation. Um, so I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen and pull up the script here. Can you guys see my screen? All
Yeah.
right, cool. So of course you have your intro. I'll touch on tonality while I have the script up so I can show you where I like kind of changed. So in the beginning, obviously you want to grab the client's attention. So this is the part where I'm the loudest. I don't really have like a loud voice unless I'm yelling, but in this part I try to sound like really like you want to grab them, like I said. So, hey Bob, this is Eman with the Veteran Benefits Office. How are you today? And then of course you're figuring out burial, or I'm sorry, not burial or cremation. You're asking, are they wanting to just cover the funeral or are they looking to leave money behind? Now, once you get down to here, obviously this is where you're going to dig into the why, and this is where your tonality needs to change. So if you're up here, when you grab their attention, take it down a little bit, because in this part you want to sound curious. So now, God forbid, Bob, if you were to pass away today, who would that beneficiary be responsible paying for the funeral and picking up all the pieces tomorrow? Like you're literally asking them if you were to die, what is going to happen? Like you don't want to still have that same high tonality. Sound very like lower your tone a little bit, slow down and sound like you're curious. Like you genuinely, which you should be genuinely curious about their situation because how else are you going to close the sale? So fix your tonality here, slow things down, lower your voice a little bit. Now, this is where they're going to open up. It's going to be their spouse, their daughter, the grandkids, whoever it is. And then this question right here. Now, is your wife Barbara in a financial position to cover a funeral expense, or is that kind of why you were looking into this, sir? This is the most important part of the question or I'm sorry, part of the script, the most important question you're going to ask, because this is the introduction into the why. Now, don't just ask this question if they say no, she's not. Don't just be like, oh, yeah, don't just read this where it says, I don't think most families can afford it nowadays. That's why most veterans are looking to get this covered. Dig in a little bit. I know some people talk about like income and stuff here with the wife. I like to reserve this income part for the person I'm talking to specifically. So I'll actually dig into spouse's income up here, where we're digging into the why and talking about the beneficiary. So if they say it's their spouse, oh, okay. I'm assuming you're the primary breadwinner, correct? Yes, I am. Does your wife work? No, she's retired. She's at home. Does she receive a pension? No, she just gets Social Security. Oh, okay. So what kind of bills do you guys have? Do you have a mortgage? Do you have auto loan? They'll tell me, yes, I have a mortgage. Gotcha. Now, would your wife be able to pay for that by herself? God forbid something were to happen to you, because we're already talking about is your wife in a financial position to cover it. So go ahead, dig in a little bit, ask about the other bills they have, paint a picture in the client's mind. Like in his head, he's like, no, she probably wouldn't be able to, but he's really not thinking like, okay, I have this bill, I have this bill, I have this bill, I have this bill. Let me add all these up. Oh wow, she's really not going to be able to pay for this stuff. That's why you have to really dig in and grab every single thing in detail that's going to affect this family if they lose the head of the family, which is most of the time the husband. So ask about mortgage. So she makes 2,000 a month in Social Security. Your mortgage payment is 1,500 a month. Now, realistically, I think we can both see that's not really going to work. Like that's going to put her in a really tough spot, correct? Yes. So, and once you ask all these questions, if they have an auto loan, what's your payment on that? How much do you owe on it? You're painting a picture for them, and you grabbed his attention. You're causing him to realize, like, this is actually something I need. Like, wow, I was already thinking about it, but now, like, I really need this. Like, this is probably something I should probably move forward on today. So once you do that, you'll of course get down here and just repeat the concern. Don't just leave it off with, so yeah, she's not going to be able to afford it. So what I'm going to do is spend a couple of minutes on your income. No, just hone everything back in. Got it. So just to recap on the conversation we've had, which I will like actually spend like 10 to 20 minutes sometimes just on this part right here. I would say closer to 10 minutes to be honest, but a lot of times they'll open up and start telling you a story. And that's what I was saying earlier. If they do start doing that, be quiet and just listen. Just let them talk. And then once they stop talking, take it right here where it says got it. So I'm really sorry that happened to you. If they tell you a story where they went into debt because of a family member, or if they're going through hardship right now financially, I'm really sorry to hear that. Like, be a human being, like, genuinely care, show them that, you are a person, you're not just somebody trying to sell them on something. Repeat back to them what they told you. If, like, for example, with that client that I said he had to take out a loan to pay for his wife, I literally was like, wow, so you went into almost $10,000 in debt to cover your wife's funeral, and you were already really sad and struggling and going through literally the hardest day of your life. Like, I've never gone through that myself, but I can't imagine that pain. I do hope you're doing better from that. And I can tell that your goal here is just to make sure that what happened to you with your wife does not happen to your kids. Because when they lose you, they're obviously going to be in a really tough spot emotionally, and we do not want to burden them with the financial side of things, correct? And then they'll say, of course, they're going to say yes. So once you have that in their mind, obviously you're going to go into client suitability with income here. This is where I touch on the client's income in more detail because for one, I want to know what they can afford and I want to like prepare them, for approximately what I'm going to quote them. So I'll just recap. Okay, so you said once they tell me how much they make monthly and then how much they have left at the end of the month, I'm like, okay, so you said you have a mortgage, you said you have an auto loan, and once all that's paid for, you're left with X amount at the end of the month. So I'm gonna look once I'm gonna tell them like, so we're not gonna do this yet, but I'm starting to like figure in my mind how much coverage you'll probably need, and I'm gonna keep your budget in mind based on what we've talked about. So that when we get to quoting, I know, that I'm not over quoting and it's something affordable to them. Of course, you have the discounts here and then the health questions. So I feel like health questions is another place that you can build a why because a lot of the clients you talk to, I know all of us have gone through this where they don't want to do it today. So aside from building an emotional why, which their health is an emotional thing as well, but the emotional why is really for the beneficiary, like in their life is going to be impacted. Who do we need to make sure is okay? That's who they're worried about. When you talk about their health, this is the client's health themselves, which can be a very touchy subject, but it helps you build the why because if they're in really poor health, you're gonna have to remind them of that. Like, sir, respectfully, like you've had three heart attacks in the last couple of years. You're on oxygen. You have really bad neuropathy. You have kidney failure, whatever it is. Not to like throw it in their face or anything, but you have to continuously throughout the call remind them of their why, remind them of their current situation and why it's urgent for them to move forward with this today. So with the health questions. If they answer yes to any of these, don't just go to the next question. Ask them. So if they say, I had a heart attack, how long ago was that? Did you get treated for that at the VA or civilian doctor? How are you doing from that? Again, carrying on with just being a human, having a conversation, not just following the script word for word. So if they answer yes to any of these, dig in a little bit, be empathetic, sound genuinely curious and take note of these things. I know everyone either writes stuff down or I put notes in my phone about my clients as I'm going through the call. So take note of them because you might need to use them when you get objections later in the call. But this is a strong place where you build the why here, to show them like this is urgent. There's no more waiting on this. You've been thinking about it for a while. Your health is bad. If something were to happen to you tomorrow or even within the next year because your health is really bad, what is going to happen to your significant other. So this is a place where you can build a why as well. Now sending credentials, benefits, and then you're going to quote them here. So now with the objections, that's where you're going to you've built your strong why at this point. You talked about their health. You understand their situation, their spouse's situation, or their daughters, their sons, whoever the beneficiary is. A lot of times, which I actually had this happen yesterday with a guy, the why was so strong. It was a man that was leaving money behind to his daughter. His daughter was in such a bad financial position. She was married, had a kid on the way, and she could not find a job. Like she's been looking for a job for over a year. She has nothing to her name. She lost the place that she was living in, and she's now with her dad. And so her dad was like, if something happens to me, like I have no idea what she's gonna do. And she's, oh, what was that? Oh, if you have a question, you can unmute. Not, please, everyone mute yourself. Um, what was I saying? So it's not like it was he's has a spouse that he's leaving money behind to because with Social Security and stuff, sometimes a little bit of it goes to the spouse. Like, no, she's literally gonna receive nothing from his income. He also didn't have a lot. He was struggling financially, but he was in a much better spot than his daughter. So he had a very strong why, and I spent a very long time on his why. Like I think I spent an hour on this phone call. It's very rare for me to spend more than 30 minutes on a phone call. And when we got to making a decision and trying to do an application today, he kept giving me objections. Oh, I need to think about it. I need to look it over. All the things that you see here that we all get. I need to talk to her about it. Um, he didn't give me a shopping objection, but he did say, can you send it in the mail? Can you send it in an email? So when you get these kinds of objections, like these are all like valid objections. Like a lot of people are not people that are like, oh, like I see something, I like it, I buy it. Like some people like genuinely want to think about it. But we know that this life insurance is a need-based product, and there's really no reason that a client that needs this product isn't moving forward with an application today to at least see if they can get approved, to see things in real life where they have a policy packet in their hand where they can see like this is legitimate policy. There's really no reason that they're not doing it today. So I had to remind him of his why throughout the call. Once we established which option we're going with here, he ended up doing the silver option where we just cover the cremation because that's all he could afford. We get down here, I'm asking for social, I'm asking for banking, objection after objection after objection. Now, that's another place here. Well, yeah, let's actually go through these first before I get to social and banking. Okay. So, if they're not trying to choose an option, right? I need to think about it. I need to talk to my wife. Everything you're seeing here, these are the most common objections that we get. So, when they're telling you, like, I need to think about it, I always say, sir, respectfully, we've already established, like, your daughter is going to be in a terrible financial position if something were to happen. What exactly is it that you want to think about? Do you not know which option to go with? Do you feel like has something changed? Do you feel like you don't need the coverage anymore? Like what's going on? And then he'll open up a little bit. He was just like, no, I just need to look it over. Like all of a sudden he was kind of like compressed a little bit. And in my head, I'm realizing, okay, maybe he's just worried about affordability. So I dug in a little bit. We talked about it, how he needs to free up room in his budget. But how did I do that? I brought back in the why. I didn't just say, oh, well, you can't free up. I think this was $57 a month. I was like, you can't free up $57 a month in your budget. I didn't just say that. You have to remind him of the why. Every time they get an objection, every time they seem hesitant, sir, what is your daughter going to do if something happens to you? While you're sitting here thinking about this, something happens to you, what is going to happen to your daughter? Like, remind him. We already talked about this. We spent 10, 15 minutes on this. But sometimes they're scared to pull the trigger. A lot of people, you guys have to remember that we're talking to. They're on fixed income. They're barely getting by. They can barely pay the bills that they have. So if you're just trying to add on another bill without establishing an emotional reason why you need to add this bill on, you're not going to close them. And even if you close them, they're going to charge back because you didn't do a good enough job of establishing like what is the reason they need to free up more room in their already very tight budget to pay for this product. Um, so that's what I was doing. I was just bringing him back to the why, asking him the hard questions, which you shouldn't be afraid to do that. Like a lot of people, they get to this part, the client chooses an option, they get excited, maybe a little nervous, especially newer agents, and then they just trip up. They start tripping over their words. They don't know what to say when the client's objecting. But you just got to remember, take it back to the why. Um, so once you establish, like I said, I established, he's just worried about making the payments every month. I told him like this is something that's important to you, right? Your daughter's important to you. She can't find a job. She's struggling. If something happens to you, she's not going to be able to carry on with bills. She's going to lose your house because she can't make the payments. And then she has literally no money to even pay for groceries. So you're not okay with that, right? You do not want to leave her in that position, correct? Correct. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to submit an application for coverage and hope to get the approval. Now I'm going to ask you some basic information. Once I send this in, they're going to mail you a policy packet. And if you want to change anything, you have any questions, all you got to do is call me. Make it seem like it's no big deal. But I could only do that because I kept reminding him of the why. Even after I did that, like I said, I got down to social and banking. He gave me multiple objections. I said, what's your social? He started talking about, oh, I don't like to give that over the phone. Now, these are all valid objections. When someone says, I don't want to give my social over the phone, I don't want to give my banking over the phone, I can't be mad at it because I promise if any of you guys called me and asked for my social, I'm not giving it to you. So it's a very valid concern. So once you establish, which we have these in here built into the script, it's for the application. I need it for the MIB report. It's the only thing on your death certificate. Once you get through all that, I even go as far as sometimes having to send them the link to the NAIC website so they can look me up and see that I'm a licensed professional. If they're still not wanting to give it after that, I promise you, especially if you spent your time with the client, you sent them their NPN, you explained what an NPN number is and how that number, once they have that, they can get you in a lot of trouble if something happens to their information. If they're still not wanting to do it, which is my client yesterday, I promise it's not because they don't trust you or because it's genuinely a security concern. It's because they're not thinking about their why right now. There's something else. So I literally, again, tied back in the why. Sir, we have to get this done. We've already established that your daughter's going to be in a really bad position. This is something I need to finish the application. She's not going to be able to claim this money. If something happens to you, if your social security's number is not on the death certificate, I can't even get you the approval for the insurance without your social because we don't have you go to the doctor's office and get checked anymore. Now, With that being said, if we hang up the phone right now and you go on about your day, you're already in terrible health, your daughter is in a bad financial position. If something happens to you next week, what is going to happen to your daughter? And he literally said, I have no idea. She's going to be in a really bad spot. I was like, all right, sir. And we've already established we don't want that to happen. I promise I'm only here to help you. And if it's the budget again, if you want to lower it, we can. But this is what I need for the application, no matter what the numbers are that we go with. So go ahead with your social. And then I got him. He went ahead with the social. With the banking, he gave one objection, reminded him of the why again, and then he did it. So that's all that it is. Like you just have to, sometimes you literally just have to pull the why through the entire conversation. It's not always going to be like that. Sometimes you talk about it at the beginning of the call, you do a really good job establishing the why, and they don't give a lot of objections throughout the rest of the call. But I would say like as you're going through the script, you want to keep throwing it in there. Use the beneficiary's name frequently when you're talking about income. Oh, so you make X amount monthly, Barbara makes X amount monthly. Now, if something were to happen to you, Barbara's only going to be left with 1,000 a month, right? And then when you're quoting them, it's already in the script, so you just have to follow the script here. Now, the bronze option will cover a funeral expense and make sure Barbara won't have to come out of pocket for your funeral. It seems like very minor, like not a big deal, like you don't need to do it, but I promise you it goes a long way. When you're consistently reminding them using names, your daughter, your family, reminding them of the story they told you, I promise it's going to be so much easier to close the deal because you've reminded them of the situation they're in and they understand, like, hey, like I actually need this. Um, so that's pretty much everything. I know I didn't go through the script in detail, but I wanted to leave room for questions. Does
Hey,
anybody have?
Stephanie, can you mute?
I'm not muted.
No,
Okay,
thanks.
Steph.
All right. Um,
I'm driving.
is
I
there
have
an
a
echo or
question.
something? Yeah, go ahead.
So my biggest issue is I have a lot of clients that already understand it's about life insurance. Um, what's kind of like your way of kind of like calming them down and reframing like the call rather than having them hang up on you before you can even say something?
So did you say that you have a lot of clients that don't know it's about life insurance? You cut out at the beginning.
No, no. So I have a lot of clients that already know it's about life insurance. So once
Oh,
I already hit the call, like they've already been talked to. So it's kind of like a dead deal, I feel like. But I know some people like they reframe their questions in the beginning and then they still get the client to stay on the phone. I'm not really good at that.
right. So a couple things. First, your tonality. Like I know obviously when you first answer the phone, like all you said was their name. I'm from the Veteran Benefits Office. So um for one, for grab their attention. Now, if they immediately say, which I get this all the time, we all get this. If they immediately like, I get these calls all the time, take me off your list, I'm not interested, whatever it is. If they still stay on the phone for a second longer, my upline actually taught me this. He said to always say, well, respectfully, sir, I'm not here to waste your time. Every agent has a different level of training. And then I always like to throw in, I'm only here to help. Just give me 30 seconds of your time. If I can help you, I'll be the first to let you know. If not, I'll let you go and we can part ways as friends and I'll never call you again, okay? Now, do you currently have anything in place? So that's how I would handle that. Make it seem like it's no big deal and like you're on their side. There's only so much you can control with this. Like this is really the part of the script where even me at this point, like, if they don't want to stay on the phone, they don't want to stay on the phone. Like there's only so much you can do. But try what I just said, and I feel like that has helped me a lot ever since I actually yesterday, wow, yesterday I one of my closes actually was that he was like, I'm very frustrated. I've talked to five people from the veteran office and nobody's been able to help me. And I was like, oh my gosh, nobody's been able to help you. I'm so sorry. And I was like, well, I'll tell you what, since you've talked to so many people, I'll be the last one. Every agent has a different level of training. Let me see if I can help you. If not, I promise I'm gonna let you go. I'm not here to waste your time, okay? So what is it exactly that you're looking for that nobody's been able to help you with? So that's really just being curious and your tonality as well, again, which I touched on earlier, just sound curious. And that's what really all you can do. I would try that. If they still don't stay on the phone, it's okay. Just go on to the next.
And are those types of people, do you spend back on them or do you just let them be?
Um, It depends on how they hang up the phone. Like if they're extremely angry or cussing me out or whatever, no. I literally I mark it as cooked and I don't call them again. But if they're
Okay.
kind of like, oh, giving smoke screens, like, oh, I've gotten too many of these calls. I don't have time for this right now. And then they just hang up on me. Yeah, I'll mark it as like 3x and I'll just go call them again.
Okay. Thank
So it
you.
really depends, of course.
Yo,
Any
man.
other, what's up?
All right. So, how do you quote your clients when it comes down to quoting them, and how do you make sure that um you don't get that I can't afford it objection?
Okay. So that's why I spend a little bit of time on income. Well, not even a little bit of time. I would say I do dig into it. So with income, ask every single one of these questions. Are you currently working, retired, disabled? Retired, that's awesome. What would you say you bring in per month to the ballpark? And then I always ask this, even if they say like, I've had clients, I make 10,000 a month. Awesome. I noticed like a lot of people just take that and they run with it. They're like, oh my God, he makes 10,000 a month. Let's get to quoting. Like, no. I still ask, believe it or not, people that make a lot of money, when people make a lot of money, they spend a lot of money. So you always want to ask at the end of the month, once you pay all your bills, utilities, any fun things you like to do. And at this point, like I said, I already know if they have a mortgage. I already know if they have an auto loan. I already know if they have um, credit card debt. I've closed the deal literally just to pay off somebody's credit card debt before because he already had the funeral paid for. So, because I dig into that when I go up here. Now, at the end, I'm sorry, not at the end, when we talk about income, I already have those things in mind. So when I say at the end of the month, once you pay all your bills, utilities, whatever fun things you like to do, how much are you left with? That's when I know, like, all this is spent, and then he's also telling me, like, I go do this for fun with my family. This is how much I'm left with. Keep that in mind and do not quote over that. Like yesterday with the cremation guy, he literally was like, I have $100 left. I was like, all right, so I need to keep it on $100, well under 100 if possible. And then once you go down here and you quote, um, the bronze option needs to be like obviously the lowest, but your gold option still needs to be under their budget. I'm not overextending myself because A, the payment's gonna fail, B, it's gonna charge back, or they're just gonna cancel it because they just can't afford it. So make sure you understand how much money they're left with, and the gold option needs to be under that, and then kind of space them out based on the client's needs. If you can't cover every debt that they have because it's too much money, I'll tell them, okay, the biggest bills are the mortgage and your funeral. Let's make sure that's covered at least. The auto loan, she can sell the car, credit card debt. She can, maybe get with a debt collector, try to figure something out. But let's cover those two and just tailor the options to make sure it's under their income. Cool.
I got a question.
Go
All
ahead.
right, so, I guess it's really building the why or keeping the why throughout the whole conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'd either get objected on the social, mostly on the banking, I guess you can say. And I always try to bring back, well, sir, we're trying to protect your daughter, right? You don't have nothing in place. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if I'm coming off like kind of rudish. How would you kind of come across that?
I know exactly what you mean. Like you feel like you're kind of like throwing it in their face.
Yeah.
So it's really about your tonality for one. Like you want to make sure like you sound genuinely curious. And I feel like a lot of people, even myself, I get kind of excited once oh my God, I'm at the banking. I got the social. This is the last part. Let me just get this so I can get off the phone. And so we'll have like a high tonality, like where we're like kind of like sounding like we're like too loud or like too in control of the call. This is where you kind of need to bring it back down. Like, well, sir, I completely understand that you don't want to give this out, or this might seem scary that we're taking care of this right now, but we did talk about, we had an in-depth conversation that your daughter is going to be in a really tough spot if something happens to you, right? Right. Now,
Mhm.
we already established if you pass away, she has nothing. Like she's literally not going to be able to pay for your funeral. She's going to struggle financially. You told me how much your daughter means to you. Now, you don't want her to struggle, correct? Like you see how I kind of lowered my tonality. So you have to remind them without being like, well, you said like your daughter's gonna struggle. Like, do you not care about your daughter? And I've said that before, like when I get really frustrated on a call, like I'm not gonna lie. But try to avoid that. Like try to just again, just be a human. I feel like it's maybe a little easier for girls because we're naturally like empathetic people and we have like tonality and whatever. But even, man to man, like see what you can relate on with the client. Like, oh, I helped my mom out with bills. Like, and if something were to happen to me, I don't want her to struggle. Like, I completely understand that. Like, just it's all about just being a human because with the objections, like I said, the security part is valid. Like I don't feel comfortable giving that over the phone. I'm already planning to get that objection on every single call. Like it's normal. But once you get over that, if they're still objecting, you have to bring it back to the why. And it's all about like controlling your tone, sounding curious, and sounding just very genuine, like as a human.
Hmm. With that being said, if like you kind of level them out, what if they just hit you? Let me just see something in like in paper, like just send something to me.
I always tell them, well, sir, what exactly do you want me to send you? I already gave you the numbers. I don't have anything else to send you because I don't know what carrier is going to approve you. I don't know which carrier is going to suit you the best. There's nothing that I have to give you in black and white. I already gave you the numbers. Like, that's all I have to give you. So, in order for me to send something over and make sure that you can look everything over in black and white, I have to get you the approval. Like, do you want me to waste your time and mine and send you a document that's just a general document that you don't even know if you apply for? So I'll ask them that just to make it sound like I'm wasting their time and mine by sending them something because if I'm able to send them something now, it's literally general information that I could send to Bob, I could send to Sarah, I could send to Christy, I could send to whoever, because it's not tailored to them specifically. So make it seem like you're trying to do them a service of getting something black and white with their name on it that's tailored to you, it's tailored to your situation, and it protects your wife. So that's how I try to get over that.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you. I appreciate you a lot. Thank you.
Of course. Any other questions?
I got a question.
Uh-huh.
So the other day, I had a 50,000. So this lady, she had a $50,000 policy that she got 30 years ago, and she pays $50 on it. And then she had a term policy that was 250,000, and she showed me she got it 20 years ago, and it was 22 years ago, and she's paying $500 currently. I get to the quotes, and she like told me like I'm not paying $400 for a $50,000 policy if I'm paying $50 for the 50,000. So like,
Did you say she's paying 200 a month for the term?
no, $500 a month for 250,000 that she got 22 years ago. And she
Okay.
said it was a term policy that was 20 years ago. Mhm.
Gotcha. So it's a term policy, it's not a whole life
No, I'm saying
policy.
like how do I get over that that $50,000 policy that she pays $50 for?
Okay, the term policy. I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused. So you're trying to get over like you're telling me that you offered her 50,000 for how much?
What was that?
I'm trying to make sure I understand your question. So you're telling me you offered her 50,000 for how much?
It was like she's like I think 79 and it was like $400. It was like the price, like it was on the price. But she was like stuck on the why would I pay this price if the $50,000 policy I have is only for $50?
And it's something she got 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so a couple things. You have to give her that reality check, of course, which I'm sure you did. Ma'am, that was 30 years ago. You were 30 years younger. You're probably extremely healthy. Obviously, it's going to be a lot cheaper. Like, that's just how insurance works. Now, we wouldn't be on this phone call if you didn't already know you needed more insurance. That's why you filled out this request, correct? And just give them that reality check. All right, now let's bring it back to reality. You are 30 years older now, respectfully. You have XYZ health condition, and at your age, it's not good to go get a term policy because a lot of times they'll be like, I've seen way cheaper. I can go get a term policy for X amount. Well, respectfully, ma'am, I mean, if you outlive that term policy, all that money you paid into it every month, you're not going to get anything back from your beneficiary is not going to receive anything, and you're not going to get the money back that you paid for the policy all these years. It also doesn't build cash value and the payment goes up every single month. On your fixed income, are you okay with that? So paint that reality and then bring it back to what you're trying to sell her, the exact option you're trying to sell her. Now, what this option does, it covers what we talked about, which I hope you established a strong why on this because this is another reason to bring back the why. So we already established you have a good policy. Whatever you got 30 years ago, you can keep that, whatever it is. Make sure you spent that coverage as well, which I try to do that at the beginning of the call. If they already have coverage, you need to know that. Like you need to know that by this point. When we're digging into the why, right here, do you currently have anything in place? If you don't ask this question, you're gonna fall on your face once you get down here. Don't wait for them to bring it up. You just get out of the way. A lot of people, I feel like, avoid asking if somebody has insurance because it's sometimes a hard objection to overcome for this reason. Like they got something many years ago, but you need to attack that. Like, do you have insurance? At the beginning of the call, okay, you do. What are you paying on it? One, can I beat it? No, I cannot beat it. This is an old ass policy. Okay. Why did you take out 50,000 30 years ago? What kind of bills do you have now? Oh, you have a mortgage. You owe 100,000 on it. Oop, 50,000 is not enough. We need to get you more coverage. So you have to have for one a reason. What is the why? Also, who's receiving the money? Who is receiving this money and what are they going to be able to do with it? How is it going to make the beneficiary's life easier? How is it going to make the beneficiary's life better? Does the beneficiary need this? Can the beneficiary pay for whatever bills that this extra policy is going to cover? So that's all like I said with building the why. All these objections about I don't want to pay for this, comparing it to their current rates, it's all smoke screen. Because we know we have the best rates for whole life. We know the whole life is better than term life. We know that if somebody got something 30 years ago, we're not going to be able to beat it. So you guys just have to make sure you have a strong why. Give them a reality check, like control the call. Like, don't be afraid to check her. Be like, ma'am, that was 30 years ago. Like you're older now. This is how insurance works. Every year that you get older, it gets more expensive. Now you did say you have a mortgage for X amount. You did say you have multiple grandkids you want to leave money behind to. 50,000, we'll set it aside for that. Boom, you've already spent that coverage. Get it out of the way, get it out of her mind. She doesn't need to be thinking about that anymore. This is a reality. You need more insurance, and this is the only option you have. There's no carrier in America that's going to give you the money you want for cheaper on whole life. And by all means, if you insist getting a term policy where the payment goes up every 2 years, you don't build any cash value, and you're going to outlive it and lose all your money. I mean, I personally wouldn't want that for my grandmother, but if you insist, I mean, go ahead, but this is your best option here. I spent a lot of time with you on this call trying to help you out, and I can promise you, as a licensed professional, this is going to be your best option. Now, if you feel like this is hard for you, you can't afford this, let's lower it a little bit. So that's really how I would handle that. Just digging in for one, making sure at the beginning, did you establish a why? Did you get this current insurance out of her head and establish why she needs the current insurance? And then at that point, tailoring it to her situation, making sure she can afford it and that there's a need for this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
How would you build a why if they already have some type of coverage in place?
Mm-hmm. Spend it. So that's the first thing. If somebody tells me I have, most of the time, most of the people I talk to, I feel like they have maybe 10, 20,000 in coverage. It's rare that I talk to somebody that has a big ass policy, but 10, 20,000 in coverage. We all know 10,000 is not enough for burial. So I'll ask them, oh, that's awesome. What are you paying on that? And a lot of times it's valid. Like I'll pull up the quoter and it's genuinely, it's a whole life policy they got 3 years ago. I'm like, oh, that's really good. I'm gonna be honest with you, I can't beat that. But what I can tell you is 10,000 is not enough for a burial. And then I will ask them, of course, like I said, mortgage, bills, like you have to spend what they have. Like show them it's not enough if you cannot beat it. If you can beat the whatever they're paying now, you can tell them like, "Hey, I have a better option for you here. It looks like you are overpaying on that." Now, don't just jump into the application after that. You still need to build a why. Like you still need to establish who's the money going to, even if you can beat the coverage they have. What does their budget look like right now and why do they need to save money? How is saving money going to help their situation? Because a lot of times when you dig in there, you can not only replace the coverage they have and give them a better rate, you can sell them more insurance because you took the time to build a strong why. You took the time to establish like, okay, they have the burial that they wanted to cover, even if they, let's say 10,000 is enough. He told me he had a mortgage. Now, sir, you have a mortgage. What's your wife going to do if something happens to you? Are you going to be able to pay for that? So at this point, I'm selling him on more insurance. I'm not only able to beat what he has, but I could probably give him more coverage for what he's paying, or even he's willing to pay even a little more to get more coverage because I took the time to establish a why. So there's that. And then if you cannot beat the coverage, like I said, the key is spending it. Spend what they have. Dig in as deep as you possibly can. Like, do not just talk about burial, cremation, mortgage, income protection, income replacement. Do you have credit cards? Like I said, I've sold policies just paying off people's credit card debt before. I had a guy, he said, I have $40,000 in credit card debt. I reminded him, I was like, ooh, credit card rates are 30%. Have you been making the minimum payments on those every month? He said, yes. I was like, oh, you're making the minimum payments. So historically, it takes people 30, 40 years to pay that much credit card debt off. Um, when they're just making the minimum payments monthly because the rates are so high. So whatever it is, whether it's debt, the burial, paint a picture for them, spend the coverage they have, show them it's not enough, and then establish, okay, so what I'm gonna do for you today is I'm gonna pull up some options that cover everything you have. So on the hardest day of your wife's life, she has everything covered, your mortgage, your auto loans, your funeral, and we'll look and tailor it to you to make sure that you can afford this to protect your wife. All right? So that's how I would handle that.
Awesome. Thank you, man.
Hmm. Anything else? All right, cool. So that's everything. I feel like like I said, with establishing the why, just keep in mind, you clients buy with emotion and justify with logic. Like I said, always try to build an emotional part of the sale, and spend your time really on that part where it says in the script, digging into the why. Once you do that, you just tailor it to their budget. From there, just pull the why through the call, and I promise you're going to close a lot more deals doing that. And also, like I said, tonality, sounding like a genuine person when you're talking about emotional things, lower your voice a little bit. Tonality, like be like genuinely sound curious. You should be curious anyways, like you shouldn't have to force it because we are all human beings. This is life insurance, like I said, is a need-based product. I'm gonna die, you're gonna die, your grandparents are gonna die, your mom's gonna die. Like be a human, like pretend like you're in the client's shoes, and I promise you will sell a lot more insurance. Um, but yeah, if anybody ever has any questions at all, whether you're on my team or not, you're welcome to reach out to me. But thank you guys. I'm gonna go ahead and end this recording and